Himmler said, "The city must completely disappear from the surface of the earth and serve only as a transport station for the Wehrmacht. No stone can remain standing."
I feel rage.
I feel so much
I
rage.
feel rage. Like, I wish I can fight for them. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out the Warsaw Uprising.
Yeah.
And this is always done on August 1st. So right,
As
this
a memorial
or remembrance to the Warsaw Uprising.
uprising.
So let's dive right into this one, guys.
For 5 years, execution, torture, and vicious oppression has been the fate of the Poles. But resistance, the will to fight the Nazis who
Yes.
occupy their homeland, has been kept alive.
That was a very
In the
long
face
time.
of
That's a long
unspeakable brutality, the Polish Home Army, the volunteer force of resistance fighters secretly living in Poland, has continued to grow. For these fighters, discovery meant instant death. But with sabotage, indirection, and a message of hope for the people, they kept the Germans from ever feeling secure in occupied Poland. And now it was time. Russian shelling could be heard in the streets of Warsaw. Liberation was at hand. But the Home Army wasn't going to wait for the Russians to march into their capital and return to them whatever portion of their country they felt generous enough to give. The Warsaw Uprising was about to begin.
Wait, guys, history.
I've heard so much about the whole Japan thing,
Yeah.
but not Russia,
Russia.
at the same time, almost the same time.
Two giant countries, German
That
and
was
Russia,
that
against
was a lot.
Poland. That was huge.
Oh, that was a lot.
Very huge attack. And we are coming to give them, like, deliberate on the motion they want to give to them.
A few months ago, James was invited to Poland to attend one of their massive game jams and observe what they're doing to help grow the games industry there. With any luck, he'll get back there for their game jam in September, and I'll be hiding in his luggage to go visit my homeland. Because while in Warsaw, he fell in love with the city and its history. So much so that he worked with the folks running the game jam to help sponsor this special episode so he could talk about one of the greatest tragedies of the 20th century. So, let's begin. August 1st, 1944. The Allies have landed in Normandy. Rome has fallen, and the Soviets have pushed the German war machine off Russian soil. And in Warsaw, a people oppressed for 5 long years are about to rise up against their oppressors. But what precipitates this is the approach of the Soviet army. Because the history between the Soviets and Poland is a fraught one. In 1939,
It's a fraught
as
one.
allies of Hitler,
It is a
Soviet
fraught one.
forces stormed over the Polish border, taking Poland by surprise and collapsing Polish defenses. Up to that point, while not winning the war against Germany, the Polish army was taking their toll, slowing down German forces and making them pay for every inch of ground. But to do this, almost all of their forces were sent to the west, never expecting an attack from the supposedly neutral Soviet Union. When Soviet forces poured over the eastern border, it spelt the end for the Polish army. 2 weeks later, Poland would surrender, and more than half would be annexed by the Soviet Union, until they in turn lost it to the Nazis, double-crossing them. And while not as
I don't
systematically
understand.
brutal as
The Soviet Union were against them at the time.
Yes, King broke them, and that was when the Germans were able to win. This is a whole lot of unpacking to do.
Nazi occupation, the Soviet domination of Poland was still horrific. They rounded up and shot 22,000 Poles in the Katyn forest. And even when they joined the Allies, they refused to acknowledge the legitimacy of the Polish government in exile. All of which means that many in the Polish resistance believed that the only way they'd have a seat at the table after the war is if they liberated their own country. Which leads us back to the 1st of August. The Russians are a few dozen kilometers away. As their advance continues, the Germans are guaranteed to fall. It's now or never. It's time to rise up.
So the Soviet Union, which is the Russian that I'm understanding now, wants the Polish land. And then the German also wants the Polish
Of
land.
course.
So now they have two enemies,
Yes.
the Germans and the Soviet Union, which is
Yes.
the Russia, coming in for just one land
Yes.
and one people. That's crazy.
The previous night, a tense meeting had occurred, and W hour, the start of the Polish uprising, was declared. The troops had trained for a surprise attack at dawn, but at the last minute, plans changed. The uprising was now set for 5 p.m. But it's hard to hide that many people spoiling for a fight. And by 5 p.m., sporadic engagements had already broken out across the city. The Polish troops were barely armed, many without weapons at all. Charging in with homemade submachine guns or captured
check
German
in with a
rifles,
log.
they took
Log
the
of
gas
wood.
works, the power and water plants, and some vital production facilities. But they were repulsed in key locations as well. The bridges, the airport, the rail line, and the main police station
really
all
fought.
remained in German hands. Most crucially, though, they failed to link up. By night, groups were erecting barricades. The city was now divided, and though there would be some coordination and reinforcement, many pockets were now fighting in their own small wars. Then the bombs begin to fall. The Luftwaffe is laying waste to the city, not differentiating between civilian areas and those controlled by the resistance. The Polish Home Army doesn't have a single anti-aircraft gun, and all eyes look for signs of the Soviet Air Force, but no planes sporting the Red Star of Russia are anywhere to be seen. 4 days into the uprising, the true atrocities start. On orders of Heinrich Himmler, German troops begin going house to house, shooting every inhabitant they find. The old,
What?
the infirmed, women, children, all were gunned down. Over the course of a week, tens of thousands of civilians are murdered as they huddled in their homes. But the Polish resistance
war
didn't
crime.
break.
War crime.
The Home Army ground the
That's
Germans to a
bad.
halt, though its strongest
horrible.
battalions were also its most tragic. The Grey Ranks. They were made up of the Boy Scouts. Older scouts were frontline troops, better organized, better trained, better disciplined than most of the volunteers. The younger members ran courier duty, while the Girl Scouts served as combat medics, nurses, and munition haulers. And they all swore an oath. I pledge to you that I shall serve the Grey Ranks, safeguard the secrets of the organization, obey orders, and not hesitate to sacrifice my life. And they would hold this oath all the way unto their death. They fought house to house, door to door, in the chaotic melee of city fighting. Classmates died side by side, first loves torn apart by machine gun fire. They referred to each other as bees because they were a hive, a collective, and they would sting the Germans. They fought with the fury only possessed by the young and the righteous, and they pushed the Nazis from the burnt-out remains of the Warsaw Ghetto. They cut into the German line far enough to liberate one of the concentration camps. 384 Jews who had survived the extermination of the ghetto were still imprisoned there, and they took up arms to fight against those who had enslaved them, who had murdered everyone they knew.
Yes.
But then, the young fighters of the Grey Ranks,
This is the good, like,
God.
my God.
I'm processing the hurts.
It
I'm
was so
processing
much.
the brutality, oh my God, the inhuman.
Like, at this point, I'm asking, where are the other European countries, the neighboring
You
countries?
know, at the time, other European countries too were under attack, were also having issues. So we were just focusing on themselves.
That's true.
Nobody came.
There were a lot happening
At the
during
same
those
time,
times,
yes.
At the same time.
Just like now, many countries are facing a lot. They
God.
can't even attend to anyone. Everybody's trying to save themselves, trying to solve their own problem.
God.
were faced with the unthinkable. Something I don't know as a human being you could face. German tanks rolled forward, but it wasn't the 100 tons of steel and death that stopped the scouts. They had faced tanks before, armed only with rifles and hand grenades. No, it was what was in front of the tanks, because in front of those tanks were women. Some burned or beaten, all Polish. The Nazis were using them as human shields. It was this the scouts couldn't face. So the advance turned to a stalemate, and still
This word has always been wicked. This word has always been wicked. I can't even comprehend this.
I'm speechless. So inhuman. Just leave people alone. Leave their lands alone. Leave. Oh my God. That happened, but then again,
It's just sad.
it's just sad.
aid did not come. By the end of August, the undersupplied Polish forces had to withdraw from Warsaw's Old Town,
Because
making
this
their
one
way
is
through
nothing
the
they can
sewers
do.
to more
Can you
easily
ask
held
any
points.
little thing,
For
they'll
nearly a
just
month, the soldiers
kill
and
them.
many of the civilians had been living off barley from a brewery the Grey Ranks had captured early in the fighting. Soon even water was scarce, with waterways clogged with corpses and Germans cutting off remaining water mains as they advanced. At last, on the 15th of September, Soviet forces appeared on the far banks of the Vistula. A crossing attempt is made, but Soviet command only sent the lightly armored division of Polish volunteers who had joined them after the fall of Poland to try to relieve Warsaw. Of the 1,600 men who went, more than 1,000 fell to German guns. The Soviets decide that a crossing was impractical, and no further attempt would be made to aid the Polish partisans. Meanwhile, America finally attempts an airdrop of supplies, but 80% of it is accidentally dropped behind German lines. American forces will not try again. The resistance is
That's suspicious.
Very suspicious. Like,
Accidentally
dropped on the German line.
Line.
Since when do Americans start making such kind of mistakes?
shelled day and night. Great mortars with shells 2 feet in diameter rain down on them. Rockets slam into the few remaining upright buildings, and tanks hammer away at foxholes for scouts armed with no more than rifles. The Germans advance on the Mokotów district. The resistance is pushed back. They enter one of the major hospitals under Polish control, and they execute every wounded soldier and all of the hospital's personnel. Again, the resistance flees through the sewers, but 150 of them exit too early and are killed by German troops. The Poles now control only a few square blocks right against the river. They were surrounded, starving, outgunned, and outnumbered. And yet, they fought. Not like bees, but like wasps. Every house was a stronghold, every doorway a bunker, and they fought within sight of the Soviet army across the river. Yet no aid came. They fought with the determination of the damned. They fought and fell. The outcome was inevitable. Surrender had to come. Germans wary of fighting and interested in concentrating on the Soviet threat offered terms. The entire population of Warsaw was to be expelled, but no one was to be executed. The terms were accepted. The resistance fighters spent their last days forging documents for the Jewish members among them. 15,000 of the home army were taken away as POWs, and 500,000 civilians were shipped out of the city. The lucky ones were simply let go, with no homes, no food, no jobs. But 60,000 ended up in the death camps, and 90,000 more found themselves unloaded at forced labor yards. And after the surrender, Himmler said, "The city must completely disappear from the surface of the earth, and serve only as a transport station for the Wehrmacht. No stone can remain standing. Every building must be razed to its foundation." And in one of the last great acts of senseless destruction perpetrated by the Nazi regime, German engineers took flamethrowers and dynamite, and systematically, building by building, block by block, wiped Warsaw off the map. By the
This abomination. This is atrocious. This is worse than I've ever heard.
I've never been so angry in a long time.
Like, you just want to turn it to a transportation site, the whole city. So you wiped everybody because you want to use it as a
How much they pay?
transport line.
How much did they pay for this crime? I hope they are still paying. Like,
Whatever they pay cannot bring back or erase the harm they've done to the Polish people.
but
Now I
that's
see
just
why.
the only way right now. Like, they are supposed to pay forever. I'm like,
Now I see why Poland is the way they are now, fighting for their people, being cautious of who they let in. They don't trust anybody at this point, and I don't
they
blame
should
them.
not.
They can't trust anybody. If something like this can happen to a person or a people,
But not really. People of Poles, like, I mean, if they read their history over and over again, they should know that they should never allow foreigners into their country.
Yeah.
Actually, they are supposed to have very little foreigners,
yeah,
acceptance of foreigners into their country, and the world should not even try to judge
question
people
them
or
or
question
judge them, because these guys have been through a
Should
lot.
not.
And to know that Poland have never colonized anybody on the surface of the earth. There is no country that can come out, or any
I
set
said
of people,
Poland
and say
colonized
Poland has
them,
colonized
or
or done
maltreated
something
them, or-
wrong to anybody.
Yeah, I've not seen.
This is wicked.
This is
time 3 months later, when the Russians finally crossed the Vistula, 85% of the buildings in Warsaw had been leveled. Monuments, schools, libraries, historical sites, all reduced to rubble and ash. If you go to the historic district of Warsaw today, what you're actually seeing is a reconstruction, an attempt to rebuild based on old photographs and paintings. If you walk the halls of the royal castle, you're not seeing a building that's been standing for 400 years. Instead, you walk through a palace completed in 1984. And in the rubble of that city lay 70% of the young people of the gray ranks. But their sacrifice was not forgotten, for their nation still stands, long after the 1,000-year Reich was wiped from the earth.
Just true. We are sorry, Poland. Oh, this is so heart-wrenching. Heart-wrenching. I feel rage.
I feel so much
I
rage.
feel rage. Like, I wish I can fight for
Oh
them.
my God, I've never been this angry in a long time. God.
God. For all the fallen soldiers, for every soul that laid their life to help the country, to help rebuild the country, that helped the Jews. Thank you. Thank you, Poland. This is just so much. And seeing where you guys came from, how you've bet yourself back, how you're standing firm now.
Now I understand why they are the way they are.
Yeah. It's so much to handle.
I just want to scream.
I feel like I can scream.
Jesus Christ.
I feel like I can
so
say
much
more
pain.
for you to have policy. There are many words that are censored. But in all, thank you, Poland, and happy Uprising Day. Thank you guys. Bye.
I'm so angry. I've never been so angry.